We're gonna stay
Look,
with
look,
Ashleigh.
Ashley said nope.
Ashleigh said, "I got something for you."
I
So
told
this
you.
is the.
Ashley told them I'm waiting outside. I'm here.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm out here. When they say I'm out here in these, I'm out here in these streets. I'm saying, like this. So, thank you so much, One Nation. I appreciate y'all.
Shout
Y'all,
out
this
to
is the
One
best
Nation.
live chat. Shout out to the best live chat on the internet. Again, I'm just telling y'all, if y'all think you have a better live chat, I'm gonna be like Ashleigh. Catch me outside. Dear Judge Whitaker, I represent Martinez Arnold, Mr. Arnold, a former defendant in the above matter. I'm submitting this letter in anticipation of Mr. Arnold's upcoming testimony. The state recently advised me that the state intended to call Mr. Arnold today, October 16th, 2024. Now that coincides with what Judge Whitaker had on her paper in front of her, because I think we heard that as well. Yesterday, I was advised that he will not testify today, and will likely not be called for several weeks, but that they would try to let me know by next week rather. Mr. Arnold originally agreed to testify when he entered into his plea agreement on December of 2022. Now approaching 2 years ago, Mr. Arnold has kept consistent contact with me over these past 2 years to make sure that he would be available whenever the state might call him as a witness. The first time that I was contacted by the state about Mr. Arnold being called as a witness was on August 13th, 2024. That was like literally 2 months ago. Okay. By Adrian Love. Ms. Love asked if I could not appear with Mr. Arnold if there was anyone who could serve as a stand-in counsel for me. I informed Ms. Love that I was not willing to allow my stand-in counsel to stand with Mr. Arnold during his testimony. And I asked Ms. Love to give. I'm gonna stop right there. She said, you're not gonna Caleb Bumpus my candidate.
Dictate how I represent my client. Sorry, It's not how it works, Love.
I don't know what y'all be doing over there, but that's not what we're doing over here.
Tried that with Steele. You remember that when he was trying to lock up Steele, and he was
sure
like,
did.
Adams, you step up now. You can't. That's a civil rights violation also.
Yeah.
Representation has the right to represent how they feel is best for the client. You can't make me use my substitute if I don't want to do it. If I feel it's not the best for my client, it's not gonna happen.
Man, let's keep this going. I forgot the last word. Some general indication of when Mr. Arnold's testimony would be needed. On September 4th, 2024, again, pretty recently, the state told me Mr. Arnold was needed within the next few days. I immediately emailed Ms. Love and Investigator Long. That's the guy that was involved with Quandarius.
The escalator, okay.
Yep. I don't know if he was the escalator, but he was the guy that came in and testified about it after Wright. With a few dates for which I had leaves of absence on file for September, and asked for the state to provide me with an anticipated time frame for when they might call Mr. Arnold to the stand. I received no response by email, but Ms. Love called my cell phone the evening of September 11th, 2024, and also sent a text asking me to reach out to Investigator Long about the timing of Mr. Arnold's testimony. Okay. I do think it's interesting because she noticed she sent her an email, but she got a text message and a phone call.
Who was that just said this? We watch YouTube. Look to me like the judge was saying that the state needs to give Mr. Arnold immunity. My question is, what effect that has on Ashleigh being able to defend her client? Zero effect. It's not the same. The attorney they found, I'm not familiar with them. The attorney they found for Zachary, like first coming in, I'm just gonna, how do I say this? Professionally, he probably just wasn't prepared. Ashleigh is very prepared. So when she's sitting in the courtroom, you're gonna see some sidebars. You're gonna see some by the way objections without her saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge she's gonna watch her client. She's gonna make sure he's good.
Yeah.
The motivation is, as long as she makes sure her client is good, she also shows the impurities in the DA's office. So it's like she's gonna it's gonna be exciting to see like what they're gonna try to get by if they actually can get him on the stand. The immunity only can go so far. That just stops him from doing, pleading the fifth for charges that are covered in the immunity. Ashleigh's the type of person who may find a way around that to say, well, what if it goes this way? So this is still protected under his Fifth Amendment. So the immunity didn't cover that, and so forth. She has some stuff in her trick bag. So I'm excited to see if she actually does step in the courtroom, how the state will play it. because it won't be an easy little QZ moment. This is the moment I love to see when you have a representation that is certified to deal with Fulton County DA's office. No better person certified than Ashleigh.
I agree. I think it's gonna be fun for sure. I responded to the same email chain, providing all the dates we were available and the few dates that I was not available. I want to stop right there. Ashleigh's got a paper trail. And I think that's one of the things that's causing them consternation is there's a bona fide paper trail.
Just because the state doesn't reply doesn't mean the message is not sent.
That is
that's
correct.
why you pointed out earlier, she sent it to everybody.
Right. This is a teacher would do this. This is when I told the story of once I found out that a parent that would change my students' work answers when they went home.
Monica, it's a new letter. Ashleigh,
brand
don't
new
get
letter.
tired.
Brand new letter.
Monica.
Yeah. And I realized that they did that. I would start sending the copy home. So I would photocopy the kids' work and I put that in the Friday folder. And that put it kibosh all this stuff because the parent knew that I was keeping track of
David,
work.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. David, I'm not gonna the best way I'll put it, don't sleep on Miss Love. In a club crucial setting, I'm gonna bet on Miss Love. I'm sorry.
Really?
But yeah, I got to. I'm sorry.
Okay.
She's in heels 24/7. Like she has to have some strength and some pain endurance there. So
that's a good point. Good point.
I'm gonna have to go with her. I'm sorry. She's a little bit up there in age, but she looks like she can do some stuff. She can.
Wow, you are so hard.
But in a core format, nah, ain't no way. Ashleigh Merchant all the way.
Let me finish this up.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Ms. Love indicated, so she sent this by email, paper trail. Ms. Love indicated that she would be calling Mr. Arnold as a witness in September. So I wrote Ms. Love and the court about the 5 days for which I was on leave in September. Mr. Arnold was never called as a witness during this time, and no one from the state ever updated me on when Mr. Arnold might be called as a witness until the last week. On October 8th, 8 days ago, Investigator Long emailed me and copied Mr. Adams Abate and not Ms. Love about Mr. Arnold's testimony. We were told Mr. Arnold would be called as a witness sometime mid to later part of the week of October 14th, 2024. We were asked to meet so that the state could give notice of his impending testimony. I provided a very detailed response advising the state that I could have Mr. Arnold testify beginning on October 14th and anytime through the 18th and beginning again on the October 22nd through the 25th, 2024. Full, absolute, foot on the brake, stop, turn the key, turn the ignition off,
and that's
stop the press. Do you mean to tell me that yesterday, during speed date, during the Love Connection Fulton County DA edition, we could have had Martinez Arnold yesterday?
Yeah.
Instead of what we had yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Is that what, did y'all get, matter of fact, in the chat, real quick, chat. But did y'all get that? I'm going to read this again. I provided a very detailed response advising the state that I could have Mr. Arnold testify beginning October 14th, which was Monday, and anytime through the 18th, which is Friday. So we could have, instead of having speed date yesterday, instead of having that grown man doing an anchor chart with chart markers, we could have had Martinez Arnold.
I feel like she kept this. This is what the state has a tendency of doing. They ignore contact purposely to.
I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct.
They do these type of setups where, like I said, it becomes a last moment urgency. And when that happens, you have to make something happen or it looks like you're being unfairly treated during a trial. But the reality is when you actually look at stuff like this, when attorneys make notes, do letters, inform everybody, like, no, they're still not talking to me.
And okay, and to be fair, she's saying, like, look, I'm telling you, we're available this whole week. So they could have told them on Monday, say, hey, we need you Tuesday. They could have told them on Monday, hey, we need you on Wednesday.
They could have made any type of concession. All they needed to do was have some contact.
That's it.
The fact that they're not being contacted is very, very alarming. Because if you're being a straightforward, by the book, I'm following the law, district attorney's office, you don't have no fear of contacting opposing counsel. You don't have any type of concern. You're like, okay, we need to get this done. If you guys want to hold us up, we can do this another way.
I'm gonna
This
go
isn't
ahead.
what's happened. They know Miss Ashleigh is Miss Merchant, or should I say?
Right.
She's a different caliber of attorney. So you can't really converse with her because she's gonna remember and she's gonna take everything you say. And if you do it incorrectly, she's gonna remind you and the court. She's gonna take some consequential actions. It's stuff that you can't do on certain attorneys. She's one of them.
I agree, but let's continue this. Since Investigator Long had mentioned in his email wanting to provide notice of Mr. Arnold's impending testimony, I drafted my October 9th, that was the letter that we read last week, 2024 letter to Ms. Love, and copied all the parties, including the court, to clarify that Mr. Arnold was not avoiding service of any subpoena and intended to testify if called as a witness. So if I'm understanding this correctly, Rome King, when she sent that letter, Adrian could have picked up the phone and say, hey, Ash, I want to have Martinez come in and testify on Tuesday.
Miss Love been out for a minute. She could have been talked to Ashley. It could.
Okay. I just want to make sure I got it right. I just want to make sure I heard it right.
This is what's making it funny because it's not like she's going home and doing some homework that we're aware of. She could have just been hit her up.
Absolutely. Let's keep this going. Testify called witness, but that we just needed some accommodation, such as a notice, to ensure that I was able to accompany him for his testimony as his attorney. On the 9th.
Felicia, hold on. I'm
okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
I missed somebody. Sister Felicia, didn't Ashley say in her first letter that her client preserved his Fifth Amendment? So does that mean no immunity? Nah, they can still get immunity. The Fifth Amendment thing, if they can cover it well enough, he might not be able to use it. But then again, like I said, she will educate her client very well. She's going to be there with them in court. So she may find ways around not only that Fifth Amendment immunity deal to make sure her client doesn't, disclose any type of damning evidence and so forth like that. But
this is just it. This is it right here.
Yeah, Malika.
She just don't want to talk to Ashley.
I can see why.
I can totally understand why. Because again, and I like to bring this up as a former classroom teacher. If you're not doing your job right by the parent, and that's who you're ultimately doing your job for. You're doing right by the parent, the true stakeholders. If you're not doing right by them, you don't want a parent-teacher conference.
Absolutely.
You are avoiding them in carpool line. You're putting your head down at lunch. But if you're doing the right thing, you're happy to see Ms. Jones. So glad that you stopped by, Mr. Smith. Absolutely. Let's sit down and talk. Little Johnny, little Sally doing XYZ, because you know you're doing the right thing. You only do the stuff that we're watching here or reading here when you know you're not doing the right stuff.
Look, Ashley had to pen letters on the DA's office shirt and send them home to the judge and say, yeah, they weren't going to tell her. They weren't going to inform her of this.
I'm just saying. I mean, I got it, but yeah, this don't make no sense. Okay, so we are on October 9th. The investigator Long emailed me that they would provide a date for Mr. Arnold's testimony within 48 hours. So the 9th was last what? I'm just saying, like, I don't see any problem here. I don't see anything wrong with her saying I want to be there with my client.
Look,
okay,
that was last know the full tense 48 hours. This might be a different type of 48 hours.
That's the new show. A different 48 hours. All right, real quick. Let me. What's going on, Miss Mandy? How are you?
I didn't mean to pop into Rome.
Hey, Miss Mandy. I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Rome, you know you're wrong for your name.
Objection. I'll have you know.
You know you're wrong for that name.
I'll have you know.
But
wow.
You know, I don't fangirl over anybody. I've talked to some really big people. I've talked to Donald Trump. I've talked to some really big people. But I think if I met Ashley, I would totally be scared.
I mean, and rightly so. I mean, well, you know why? Because I know that I'm not coming here to, I wouldn't be afraid of Ashley if we were going to be talking about parenting. I got no
She's
problem with
intimidating,
that.
though.
But she would be very intimidating. I think Adrian Love is grossly intimidated by her. Because I'm looking back here.
Sharp person. That's the best way I can put. She's super
Ashley
sharp.
Merchant reminds me of my great aunt who could smack you around with words. She didn't have to lay a hand on you.
Well,
she could use words and smack you down to the floor.
Sound like
Never
my
touch you.
grandmother.
Never touch you. My aunt never laid a hand on me, but she could make me feel lower than dog crap.
It sound like my grandmother. Look, I'll be outside like I can pick a switch, grandma. Like I can go do this. No,
So
the way she would speak would do me in every time. I definitely get that.
So shout out to and we are way off the rails. Shout out to YouTube. They have now age restricted this video.
Oh no.
I just
What?
got a message that they just age
For what
restricted
reason?
because of violence, graphic violence.
Were we graphic? Was that
this
the court video?
the live stream, today's live stream is being age restricted.
Was it the court video?
I don't know.
Is it
probably
because I
was.
said my aunt could smack me around?
I think
No,
it was when we played the
it's
court
been sitting in my
video.
email for a second. I didn't realize it. I just got it. I just looked at it. So it's been a minute.
We did show somebody jumping a judge.
I hope that's not it.
We did show that. That might be what it is.
That I don't know. I don't know how long it's been in it, but I just got the message. I don't know how long it's been in it. Anyway,
Yeah,
I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
Shout out to YouTube. You're amazing. Shout out to YouTube. You're simply amazing. So this has been age restricted. That is hilarious. I've never had
I'm going against you on that YouTube. I'm just letting you know.
Me too.
I've never had an age restricted video.
Have you not really?
Never had.
Yeah, you can.
That's fine.
You can go against it. No, it's not
You can take to it.
demonetized
I'm
for
not worried
public room. It just means he's going to get paid 36 cents on it.
That's okay. Shout out to YouTube. Way to go. Way to go, YouTube. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay.
No,
All right, let me
Republic
finish.
room, not demonetized. No.
No, just the video. Just the video. Anyway, I shouldn't have even brought it up, but I just think it's hilarious that. And the funny thing is, everything I've shown is YouTube content. So that video, if it were the guy jumping over the stand, that video is on YouTube right now. I didn't go to WWF and get it. It's from YouTube. like it's y'all putting it on there.
I had a Donnell Jones song on one of my car videos, and they age restricted it. It had no curse words. It was just a normal love song, no adult stuff. Just a I love you type song. And they was like, "Yep, age restricted. You're done, buddy." I was like, "Okay."
There you go.
Well,
I don't like the moniker. I'm sorry. We watch YouTube, but we're going back on task. I don't like the moniker of it being age restricted because that seems like I'm doing something that a child could not watch. Like my kids would not be able to watch my video. That's what it says to Jason. Jason, your videos cannot be watched by the dynamic duo and that's inappropriate to me because that's not what I do here on this channel. It's part of the best live chat on the channel. Now, if I was letting y'all just wild out in the chat, then that's another thing. But we don't do that. And so therefore it doesn't really matter. It's just something that I don't like as a moniker. So I will make sure that we'll deal with that after the fact. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because I got it.
Squashing free speech, and I'm not for that.
Yeah, we'll deal with it. But anyway, you know what I'm going to talk about?
This letter.
We're going to finish this letter. So she sent the letter on the 9th, which was last Wednesday. So she said that they were going to testify within 48 hours, which would have been Friday. They were going to let them know, rather, when they're going to testify, which would have been Friday. Let's keep going. He also said that they would provide me with anything that the state wanted Mr. Arnold to review prior to his testimony and answer my questions about whether the state intended to ask Mr. Arnold any additional questions that would involve his Fifth Amendment privileges and or grant of immunity. I don't see anything wrong here, but let us continue. On the 11th, which was Friday, investigator long advised that Mr. Arnold would be called as a witness on the 16th, which is today, 2024, but that they would keep me posted as the trial progressed. Let me just stop for a second. Remember yesterday, speed date Tuesday. We didn't have to have that yesterday. They could have moved all that foolishness back. And please don't tell me that, it would have been more important to have the 911 operator. It would have been more important to have the 18 people from APD.
About the little friend. We had to hear about
and hear about little friend than having this person having this off your plate. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's continue. But that they would keep me posted in the trial progress. He also advised me that Mr. Abati would be responding about whether there were any prior statements that the state intended to use refresh Mr. Arnold's memory, and whether the state intended to ask any questions outside the proffer he provided that might implicate immunity or Fifth Amendment concerns in the interest of expediency. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, go ahead.
So they just told her today that they would get him on stand today?
No, they told him on Monday. But I think they told her today that they weren't going to be able to, because you heard Simone shucking and jiving saying that they were going to do it before Thanksgiving. And Whatchcall just said, no, that's a wrap. It's not going to happen.
Okay, gotcha.
Avoid wasting the jury and the court's time. I previously had asked that the state to send me any prior statements that the state may wish to use during Mr. Arnold's testimony. Okay. So far, so good. I don't see what the
Mo
problem is.
said the state has a specific order of how they are introducing events. I'm gonna be honest. There is no order.
I'm sorry. Yeah. What was the order yesterday? I'm sorry. What was the order with Sledge and Wunk Tunk and them that they could not have had him come in and just get it over with? I think the problem is they don't want to get it over with. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen like an actual cohesive like storyline since February. So they're implementing and showing people, even the officers that they bum rushed through. They were speaking on different events that weren't even in the same. Like I can't think of a better description.
Right. No, that's a good point.
But they were focused on different town shootings, different individual shootings, and they were sporadic. It wasn't like they put both of the CSI. They put 2 CSI officers up there for 2 different scenes.
Facts. And also just keep in mind, would not, if you're trying to, again, the cohesive order of the speech, this is a state. Because if they had gone ahead and had Martinez Arnold come up yesterday, you know what they could have done? They could have went down there to FedEx Kinko's and got that man an anchor chart made without him having to sit up there and write up there with a doggone chart marker. So they could have done that. And they could have killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and it'd have been amazing. That's all.
October 1st as an order. Bowers, Jenkins, Coppage, Latner, Kelly, and Toulis. That was the last order that I had.
Was Papa on there?
It was Papa.
No, Papa was not on there, but this was October 1st. Bowers, Jenkins, Coppage, Lautner, Kelly, and Toulis. Y'all excuse me, my mouth's still swollen, but that was Papa, let's face it, has always been around. But that was
the new Unc for me. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we need Unc to stay. We need Unc to stay. All right, let's finish this up. On October 14th, 2024, I wrote Investigate Along and Abate to confirm that Mr. Arnold was being called at 9 a.m. on October 16th, which is today. And again, to ask about those 2 outstanding questions regarding prior statements and questions outside of his proffer. In response today, October 15th, 2024, which was yesterday, Investigator Long responded that Mr. Arnold's testimony would not be needed this week and that the state did not anticipate his testimony taking place in the next few weeks. He wrote further, I do not have a date certain as of now. So I'm only asking again, what happened yesterday? What happened today that was so tantamount that they could not have had him just going up there and get that out of the way?
No matter how you flip it, the burden kind of still falls on the state on this, because they've had ample. We're on day 145. If we would have had the correct pace of cross-examination of each witness, and they weren't prolonging anything, they would never be in no time crunch like this. Would never happen. So certain things like this have a tendency to pop back up. So when you take your time, per se, you're reading 900-page witness testimony books out loud, sentence by sentence, stuff like
crazy.
That. Stuff like that can knock your ability to present your case effectively. And it's nobody's fault but the state's. I won't even say Miss Love, because there's no telling who devised this plan at this point. I hope it's not her. But there's no one else to fault for that.
I agree. And I don't see what, again, there's not you can't tell me they're now concerned about a cohesive narrative when you spent 2 months with Woody. And yeah, I can't believe that you believe there's a cohesive narrative somewhere lost in this.
Have you noticed how much his name has been popping up?
His name been popping up a bit. His name been popping up a little bit. Like, there's something going on there.
They said about him today? Like
was it yesterday?
Yeah, today that said, let me get this straight. Woody, or you shoot Woody's people, Woody shoots y'all's people back. I was like, whoa, okay. Well, there was that.
It's a real thing.
All this stem from Club Crucial. I bet they wish they never went.
I
Guaranteed.
never went. Right. Club Crucial is crucial to
Malika
this
said,
case.
my little bro is everywhere.
That little guy, that dude is he's in the mix. If he ain't in the mix, he don't feel right.
Look, that it comes at a price.
Come at a price.
Apparently not for Woody, but
Right. Mr. Arnold and I have been on call since January of 2023. While we realize that trials are sometimes unpredictable, we have been available for the past 22 months. Now moving into November of 2024, I'm especially set for a jury trial the week of November 18th, 2024, and will be on medical leave beginning November 22nd, 2024. Given how other witnesses have been required to testify with stand-in counsel, Mr. Arnold is very concerned. So let me stop real quick. We got Woody with the Melnick Bumpus chicanery. I think Sledge had his own attorney for the whole time, right? But Quandarius didn't.
They had to get that I'm gonna be nice. They had to get that last minute guy.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And then who's the other one? Did anybody else have their own attorney or have some kind of attorney mix up while they were on the stand? I don't think so.
I can't recall.
Yeah. Okay. Just bringing it up. Stand-in counsel, Mr. Arnold is very concerned that the state is purposely delaying calling him to the stand so that he will be denied his right to have his counsel of choosing. I can't see anything else. Why not just go in it? Why did he not go yesterday? They could have been done with this. Choosing. Go ahead.
Sassy C, I wonder if they want to add something in they haven't let defense know and giving time in between now, they pushed them back. That could be a very viable point. I just know whenever they do this little charade here, it's usually something to that effect where they'll try to do some type of sandbag tactic on the defense to where they're like, okay, by the way, guys, tomorrow we got somebody big coming on this.
Yeah.
I found the red folder, guy. No,
I found a red folder. Look what I found. Cyber attack.
Cyber attacks, man. Be careful. It might take the letter off.
Watch out.
Hey, their name was Cyber, okay?
The name was Cyber attack. All right. The same counsel that negotiated and is familiar with the terms of his plea. I'm kindly asking the court to instruct the state to advise me whether, in fact, it intends to call Mr. Arnold at all so that we can avoid any unnecessary waste of parties and the court's time and resources. If the state still intends to call Mr. Arnold as a witness and to the extent that the court can address potential evidentiary and privilege issues before they arise and to expedite Mr. Arnold's testimony in this presence of the jury, I believe advising the court of the history with regards to Mr. Arnold's plea negotiations and plea agreement would greatly assist the court in ruling on potential issues. All right. Factual and procedural history regarding Mr. Arnold's plea. All right. Let me see. Anything I'm missing before we jump in? We're missing Papa. All right. Yeah, I like that. I do think it's interesting. Ashley already knows this trial is going to be a week long. She said it's going to be a week long.
Ashley's on top of this. That's what I was saying. Like most attorneys, like that we've been seeing for some of the witnesses have been like put on the spot per se. Ashley's clearly been following this.
Right. So, even though she says she hasn't been following it, I think her not following it is better than Adrian Love's following it. So there's that. I think she's following better than Adrian.
Oh, Eris laughed, but
everybody in the chat is. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I think I'll pick anybody in the chat that's following better than Adrian. Let us go on in 2014. Mr. Arnold was charged in an indictment of they don't have squiggly lines on here, man. I was ready to say squiggly lines. 14 SC 13 10 32, in which he pled guilty to a misdemeanor and completed his sentence on February 29th, 2016. On 2015, Mr. Arnold was charged in the indictment of 15 SC 14016, to which he pled guilty under the First Offenders Act and completed his sentence and was discharged and exonerated from November 1st, 2021. Okay. I got you. Mr. Arnold was able to complete the foregoing sentences without felony convictions on his record. Got it. Despite this, in 2022, Mr. Arnold was arrested and charged for these same two underlying criminal indictments from 14 SC 13-10-32 and 15 SC 14-01-16 in the current RICO indictment. Wow. Okay. Somebody mentioned this, and I didn't know this, that they were literally bringing people back and because of the RICO, even though they had tried the case, been found guilty, pled guilty, served their time, they were still being brought back in as RICO. I didn't realize that.
No matter in Fulton.
Wow. So double jeopardy is out the window up in here.
I don't even think it's double jeopardy. It's just how the way that they're prosecuting is very vindictive. This is what I'm saying. Like certain ways you can prosecute on something is the charges that they pled guilty to, they may have found additional charges when reinvestigating the evidence or the testimony. So somebody will actually sit around in the Fulton DA's office, look through these cases, and say, "Hey, we can lock them over that."
Bro, that is insane. That's crazy.
What?
Monica says overt acts.
Yeah, but look, at what point do you say that? At what point do you say, "Look, okay, sure, it's an overt act, but you've already paid for
right."
sin."
We got people that have been in jail for like 10 years. Just back
like,
with new charges.
It's almost like, hey, well, we arrested you on a possession of illegal substance back in 2015, but now the statute has changed, and we can, pull your toenails out. We need to bring you back in and start pulling your toenails out because why? Because back in 2015, you were caught with the possession of an illegal substance. That's crazy.
Malika wants to know, did he actually commit these crimes again, or the state just slapped them back on? If so, isn't that illegal? I'm gonna tell you something that a vindictive prosecutor can do. You can plea out, or you can beat a case per se, and they may be up at night one night. They could have a bad week one week, and your client name may pop up in their head, and they will review a case. And depending on, this is why they're Ashleigh's asking for immunity on the stand for a reason. This DA office has a tendency to use testimony, prior criminal acts that they didn't charge on. They will bring it up to make their case against someone they want.
Bro, that's the craziest thing I've heard all day.
So it's not illegal. It's just super vindictive, super petty.
And matter of fact, most people agree because that's why they think they're going after Monktunk. Whether it's right or wrong, whether Monktunk, violated his plea agreement, but most people feel like the reason they're doing this is because he showed them up. Captain Papa, I agree with you, Captain Papa.
I would agree, Captain Papa.
If one ran.
Captain Papa. But the way our election system is rigged in Atlanta, I'm not. Look, I can tell you, there's no way she keeps doing this by a landslide.
Yeah.
I'm not believing it.
Yeah. I don't know how he's affording his attorney, Ray. I think you asked about Ashleigh. No, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe she's doing it just because, you know what? She's here to bring the noise. Maybe she's like, you know what? I need to get Fonnie something to keep her up at night, cause her consternation. So maybe they say, I don't know.
Nobody runs against her before a reason. You see how she's turning the city upside down for one man.
Yeah.
It's dangerous out here.
It's dangerous in these streets, man. Let's finish this up. All right. In the current RICO indictment and held without bond in the Fulton County Jail, despite having been able to successfully complete probation for both underlying offenses and move forward without a felony on his record, Mr. Arnold was nevertheless denied bond. Having little resources, Mr. Arnold attempted to negotiate a plea in connection with the RICO indictment. So they threw him in. So they threw him in
jail.
And no, he's not in jail now because wow, how long is this? It's 4 pages. Looks like one of the pages is missing. I already know one of the pages is missing. All right,
Thugger, you slacking on us, Thugger. Come on.
That is correct, Sassy. She actually did make it clear.
But she didn't. Yeah. Okay. Well,
it's more going back in time and trying to find more charges.
Right. So this is some Minority Report on steroids. Okay, we're gonna end on a cliffhanger. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Stay tuned in the next. All right, let's go. Allowed him to finally be released from his conditions in the Fulton County Jail. Notably, while the state and Judge Glanville both were unwilling to grant Mr. Arnold a bond, they were willing to let him be released on probation, provided he would provide testimony sought by the state. Mr. Arnold, so it sounds like to me, they said, hey, some of these cases, some of these things that you did, even though you paid for them, they could be considered the overt acts for this RICO, and we can lump you in with this.
Bingo.
Or you can go ahead and testify.
And then you still may get a charge from that if you don't get that immunity.
Facts. Mr. Arnold, however, was unwilling to make all of the statements that the state sought, and Mr. Arnold was again sent back to Fulton County Jail to languish without a bond. After further and deliberate negotiations, the state agreed to accept the statements Mr. Arnold could swear to under oath and agreed to release Mr. Arnold on probation once he made those statements and agreed to testify for the state about those statements. When we know what they did to Monk, this really seems like some dastardly work right here.
I told you that they have a pattern.
It does seem weird. It does seem formulaic for sure. Mr. Arnold agreed only to the specific statements set forth in his plea agreement, and he was clear, very clear, that he intended to retain his right against self-incrimination under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution without, or should any party seek to question him about any matters outside of his specific statements contained in his plea proffer. Okay. On December 16th, 2022, Mr. Arnold entered his plea, which allowed him to remain on probation. A copy of his plea colloquy is attached here too. Since the entry of his plea, Mr. Arnold has been in full compliance with the terms of his probation, for which reporting is set to terminate in December of this year. Oh, that's dirty.
And here we are.
That's why. Not that's why.
That is wrong.
That is low down.
I thought it's this type of prosecution.
So again, if they had just went ahead and had him come up Monday, yesterday, Tuesday, and just got it out of the way, this would be in the rearview mirror, and he'd be going into the new year, 2025, having all of this done.
The state isn't worried about that right now. This is what I'm saying. Like, they're not worrying about telling a story cohesively. They're not doing none of that. They're doing things in some odd, spiteful ways. You can call it by chance if you want, but after almost 150 days, it's becoming a pretty prominent pattern.
For sure. All right. If anybody gets those last pages, send them to me, dearwokecy@gmail.com. Make sure, because I don't see the other pages. I'm looking. I don't see them. All right. The last couple pages or however many this letter from Ashleigh is.
I'm looking in my folder too, and I can't find it.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I'll figure it out. Okay, cool. Anyway, let's finish this up. Where are we? Recently, the state called one of Mr. Arnold's co-defendants to testify pursuant to his plea agreement. This witness did not receive a grant immunity for his testimony.
Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off. Can somebody, one of the mods, put Jason's email in the chat for Dominique? He says he has the whole.
Oh, email. Here, dearwokecy@gmail.com.
Got it.
Got him.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, beat me to it. That's okay.
No, it's all good. And
all right, you can continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, appreciate you, man. Thank you for good looking out. Recently, the state called one of Mr. Arnold's co-defendants to testify pursuant to his plea agreement. This witness did not receive a grant of immunity for his testimony, and unlike Mr. Arnold, apparently did not retain his Fifth Amendment privileges when he entered into his plea agreement. After this witness testified, the state filed a motion to revoke his probation for what the state believed was a violation of the terms of his probation. The state alleges that the witness directly contradicted the special conditions of his plea agreement by disavowing the factual statements or factual agreements he had sworn were accurate and true during his plea hearing. The state then agreed, or rather argued, that this witness had the opportunity at the time took the plea to correct and clarify any statements of the factual agreement before affirming that their truth under oath. Mr. Arnold has serious concerns that the state may, without any authority, attempt to do the same thing with Mr. Arnold. For this reason, Mr. Arnold wishes to advise the court in advance of his testimony, why such an action by the state would be improper and illegal.
The state don't care about none of that.
Whoa, it's 8 pages? Oh, merciful goodness. Okay, let me do real quick. Hold on, if I can. Let me see if I can. Dominique, for the clutch win. All right, we're gonna do a magic of editing right here. Did anybody notice that I changed it? Did anybody notice I changed the page?
Monica Mo Justice, the plea specified no Fifth Amendment privilege. She's pointing out ineffective counsel right.
Okay, there we go, right there. That looks a lot better.
Good
all right,
catch.
so let me. Okay, so illegal. All right, so that looks good. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Dominique. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. All right. As an initial matter, Mr. Arnold attempted to correct or clarify the statements contained in the original factual agreement. He was told if he did not admit to the statements as written, he would be sent back to the Fulton County Jail, held without bond, and be placed on trial with his co-defendants. Mr. Arnold continually explained that he could not swear to all of his statements the state wanted him to swear to in the factual agreements. Notably, Mr. Arnold was willing to return to the Fulton County Jail and stand trial. The state amended the factual acknowledgement to remove those statements for which Mr. Arnold had no knowledge. In other words, the parties specifically negotiated the scope of the factual agreements to specifically narrow the potential scope of Mr. Arnold's testimony, which included a separate constitutional right to remain silent. We are writing to advise the court and the state outside the presence of the jury that if the state intends to call Mr. Arnold and ask him questions about facts that are not contained in the plea proffer, or questions that are worded differently from the statements in Mr. Arnold's plea proffer, and then attempt to use those statements against him as it has with another witness in an effort to revoke his probation, Mr. Arnold will assert his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and will refuse to answer any such questions. Mr. Arnold's assertion of his Fifth Amendment rights, however, which was specifically contemplated by the express terms of his negotiated plea agreement, cannot be used to revoke his probation or to hold him in contempt. Okay. All right, let's keep it rolling. In addition, how's that? Y'all good?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
In addition, at no time between the date of Mr. Arnold's plea and the present has anyone from the state suggested to me that Mr. Arnold would be offered any immunity for any testimony that he gave. Nevertheless, based upon the state's history of using immunity to force additional witness testimony in the middle of a trial, I outline below several issues that for the court's consideration prior to Mr. Arnold taking the stand. Mr. Arnold has no faith in any immunity agreement that the state might put forth in this case, in which has been offered to other witnesses to compel the testimony under the threat of incarceration without assurances from the court that this immunity will extend to the state's attempt to revoke his probation if they do not like how he answers questions. Furthermore, Mr. Arnold has no faith that the state will not use whatever he says, no matter whether he has an agreement with the district attorney for immunity against him if they do not like how he testifies on the stand. Mr. Arnold's constitutional protections, much like the promise of immunity, ring entirely hollow when the state refuses to honor them. With no agreement that the state will not try to revoke Mr. Arnold's probation or charge him with another crime based on these same allegations, or deny him bail or require him remain in unconstitutional conditions. Position. Okay. Mr. Arnold will only answer questions specifically negotiated and set forth in his proffer. In other words, he is asking the court to make state honor its agreement with Mr. Arnold and not allow the state, as it has in the past, to change the terms without, I'm sorry, only after it is unhappy with his testimony. I do think that she should, it seems interesting because I don't think that they've ever settled on when he's actually going to testify. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but it seems like they could have narrowed it down a little bit more than they did.
Not in Fulton.
Yeah, it does. It seems wild. We're going to keep rolling. To be perfectly clear, based upon the express terms of the plea agreement, the state may only question Mr. Arnold on the following. Mr. Arnold was a member of the Rolling 60 Crips. Mr. Arnold became associated with or affiliated with YSL.
To be perfectly clear.
Oh, yeah.
He probably already agreed to these.
Yeah, these are things that probably are on the proffer that he agrees to.
Yep.
Nobody has it. So they don't want him to come back in there with their revised proffer or the revised plea agreement.
She's making sure she points it out because, like we were saying earlier, Miss Love or the DA's office in general has a tendency to pick specific things to make additional charges or threats. So they have to be very careful with pointing these things out.
Yeah, you can't blame her for wanting it to be perfectly clear in every letter she writes. So every letter she writes is going to be a new book.
But imagine how many people can't afford an Ashleigh.
Yeah.
And we've seen the repercussions for not having that money to afford an Ashleigh with prior witnesses. This shouldn't be this crazy.
It shouldn't be this difficult. It should not.
It really shouldn't. But the way that they're prosecuting, it makes it to where you need a heavy-hitting shark of an attorney.
All right, let's keep this going. Let's roll. All right. Mr. Arnold became associated or affiliated with YSL in 2015, but not that YSL is anything more than a record label. Got you. Okay. Mr. Arnold committed the other incident for which he pled guilty in the indictment 15 SC 140116 and again in 2022 in this indictment. Mr. Arnold committed the other incident for which he was held guilty to in the indictment 14 SC 131032 and again in 2022 in this indictment. Okay, that makes sense. Mr. Arnold was present on May 9th, 2022, when the search warrant was executed, and he does not claim ownership of any of the items that the government claims to have discovered during that search. Mr. Arnold also acknowledges that YSL, which he knows is a record label, has the following identifiers: clothing with YSL or slime, pendants with the letters YSL or slat, colors of green for slime, seeing YSL members use one or more hand signs, language that members of YSL use.
Jason uses color green. That's it. He's Rico.
This isn't Rico. I love the wording on this. Read that first one, the first bullet point right up there. Mr. Arnold also acknowledges that YSL, which he knows as a record label.
Right. So they're not going to be able to ask him, is YSL
he can identify all these traits to the record label.
To the record label. Very good. Language that members of YSL use includes slat, which means slime love all the time. Some of the language includes calling each other slime. Symbols that YSL use including green heart and green snake. Oh my gosh. Or the green duck. So there's that. As explained above, as to any other topics or questions, Mr. Arnold intends to assert his right to remain silent under the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment protects Mr. Arnold against any statements that potentially could be against his self-interest. In the RICO indictment, the state has alleged that certain non-criminal acts were overt acts in the furtherance of a conspiracy. Therefore, any statements by Mr. Arnold, even as to the non-criminal acts, could be used by the state to demonstrate an overt act that could be used to potentially prosecute Mr. Arnold. In that scenario, Mr. Arnold would be forced to remain silent yet again in Fulton County Jail without bond. Forced to remain yet again in Fulton County Jail without bond. I don't know where I got silent from. Sorry about that. Such an action by the state would be an obvious attempt to strong arm Mr. Arnold into providing additional testimony, even though the state agreed to the terms of the plea offer, knowing full well that Mr. Arnold could testify. Therefore, Mr. Arnold intends to assert his Fifth Amendment privileges against making any such statements that are not covered in the agreement upon proffer since any statements, as the state argues, can be used against him as an overt act should the state seek to use that information for that purpose. And he is asking the court to uphold the terms of the agreement and to decline any invitation to interpret his failure to testify to facts outside of the agreement as evidence of any probation violation that could be used to rearrest him. It is also my understanding that many of the questions that the state may wish to ask Mr. Arnold pertain to social media posts, musical lyrics, videos, and friendship or associations he has. The state has denoted several, or rather certain, of these facts as overt acts and continues to argue that other acts are admissible as overt acts in furtherance of the alleged conspiracy. Therefore, Mr. Arnold intends to assert his Fifth Amendment privilege for any questions about social media posts, musical lyrics, and videos.
Good for him.
And his friendship. Go ahead.
I just say good for him.
And his friendships or associations, since none of those topics were listed in the plea proffer. Gotcha. Despite the foregoing, Mr. Arnold wishes to make certain that he intends to fulfill his requirements of his plea agreement and testify as to the matters outlined in the proffer and summarized above, but only those topics. Mr. Arnold wants to make abundantly clear that based on his fear that the state will seek to revoke his probation, should the state seek a testimony beyond that in his proffer, he only intends to respond to those specific questions, and only if they are worded in the same manner. They were posed during Mr. Arnold's plea proffer. Can they just pull the questions directly off of that?
I don't have faith that the Fulton DA can be that. Look, it sounds crazy, but we've seen them do some pretty sketchy things when trying to recollect information. We don't need no more cyber attacks, Jason.
Okay. That's fair enough. Mr. Arnold is providing the court and the state with notice that he intends to assert his right to remain silent, a right specifically protected in this plea agreement. I trust this history of the negotiations regarding Mr. Arnold's plea and summary of Mr. Arnold's position on recent issues that have emerged in context of other witnesses will assist the court in evaluating these issues should they arise during Mr. Arnold's testimony. We happily invite the state to outline its position for Mr. Arnold and the court and the court and the current defendants so that everyone is on the same page before Mr. Arnold's anticipated testimony, so as to ensure that his testimony can be taken expeditiously, fairly, and in accordance with the terms of his negotiated plea agreement and without violation of Mr. Arnold's Fifth Amendment constitutional rights. Should the court wish to hear from Mr. Arnold on any of these issues in advance of his testimony, I'm happy to address them at the court's pleasure. And that's from Ashleigh Merchant, and that is an 8-pager. All right, what you thinking? What you got?
I'm thinking that if the state was smart, they really wouldn't call Mr. Arnold. I really think they should probably just, charge it to the game, let him go his way. If anything, if he's able to testify the way that this letter infers, it's not going to be good for their case at all. At all.
It looks vindictive.
Very. Then you got the things that they're trying to get into the case that shows that they're a gang, in the way that it's even worded in his agreement. He's not saying they're a gang. So he's going to be able to sit up there and pretty much break down the assertions that they're making on the indictment.
Yeah.
It would make sense. It would definitely make sense to not call him up.
But they will.
I agree. Oh, they're going to still call him up. Or they're going to let time expire.
Malika loves ego too big to let. Yep, you are correct. She's going to take this as a challenge from Ashleigh.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to, show Fanny how it's done, Big Fanny.
Yo, hit that like for deal with Christian. Yo, for deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian. For deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian.